Hi, my name is Eric Norris. For the past 2 years, I've been working with the City of St. Helena Planning Department on the Hunter Subdivision project. That project is getting ready for a City Council hearing on Monday, May the 1st. And with that date approaching, we wanted to put together this brief video for you to go over some of the major issues associated with the project, talk a little bit more about what exactly is being proposed, and hopefully answer some of your questions before the hearing on the 1st. And let's talk about some of the issues, starting with what the project is. So first of all, who are the applicants and what are they proposing? Well, the applicants are Ben and Kelly Van Zutphen, and their proposal is a subdivision that would take an existing 16.9 acre parcel and divide that into 51 single-family residential lots and then one parcel on which multifamily development would occur in the future. Their proposal is to build 87 dwelling units, and that breaks down into 51 single-family homes, 25 multifamily homes, and 11 accessory dwelling units, which will be built with those single-family homes. The project is located here at the northwestern end of Adams Street. It's about a third of a mile from downtown St. Helena and adjacent to the Vineyard Valley mobile home community. This is the tentative map that I mentioned. And basically what that map does is it takes the existing single parcel and splits it into lots on which single-family homes would be built, as well as one lot which is designated Lot 52, on which about 25 multifamily homes would be developed. This is the only application currently in front of the City Council. There are others associated with the project that we'll talk about in a few minutes, but for now, this is the only action that the City Council is being asked to take, which is to either approve or deny this subdivision map. So when the council meets in April, they are going to be asked to take two actions. One is to certify a final environmental impact report on the proposed project, and the second is to either approve or deny the tentative subdivision map. Now, the Planning Commission met on February 7th. They recommended that the City Council certify the EIR and approve the tentative subdivision map. So that is the recommendation that is moved forward from the Planning Commission to the City Council. Now, I mentioned that the first decision before the City Council is whether or not to certify the environmental impact report for the proposed project. That's something that has to be done under state law, the California Environmental Quality Act. And the City Council needs to do a couple of things about the EIR. One is they need to certify it, which means that they're making a finding that it's a complete, adequate, and accurate description of the project's impacts. Now, the EIR is a very complex document. It's all available on the city's website. If you go there and look for the Hunter Subdivision project, you'll see the environmental impact report. It's also described in the staff report material, so I invite you to look at those if you want to find out more about the project and its impacts. But as I said, first they need to certify that document saying that they find it is complete and adequate. Second, the project has one significant and unavoidable impact according to the EIR, and that is on vehicle miles traveled. Vehicle miles traveled, or VMT, is a measure of the total number of miles that all the people who live in this project are going to drive on a daily basis. The state has mandated that cities like St. Helena, all throughout the state, and counties as well, need to try and reduce vehicle miles traveled to reduce air pollution and greenhouse gas emissions. So under the measures that the city has adopted, this project has a significant impact on vehicle miles traveled. That impact cannot be mitigated. In other words, it can't be reduced to a level where it's not a significant impact. So we're left with that impact, which means then that the council needs to adopt a statement of overriding considerations. What that says is that in the council's judgment, and this is staff's recommendation to the Planning Commission and Planning Commission's recommendation to the council, that the project has benefits that override that impact on vehicle miles traveled, or VMT. Again, it's a complex document. It's all described in more detail in the staff report, and I definitely invite you to look online, download that, and read it for yourselves if you have any questions about what findings the council is being asked to make. So we've talked about the project and the decisions that are going to face the City Council in April. Let's talk about a few issues related to the project. We're going to go over 6 different items here. We're going to talk about the Napa River levee and flooding impacts. We're going to talk about water neutrality, trails and open space, the high density nature of the project, traffic and congestion, and affordable housing. So let's dive into flooding. A very common concern about the project is that it is in, quote, a floodplain. And many of the commenters who have expressed an opinion about the project appear to be concerned that the city would be putting houses in an area that's subject to flooding. Let me explain why that's not really the case. On the screen in front of you now is a photograph of the project site taken from the other side of a drainage basin that the city constructed about 10 years ago when the levee was built. That basin collects floodwater, which is then pushed through some pipes into the Napa River when flooding occurs. But the important thing here is the levee. The levee protects both the Hunter project site and the adjacent neighborhoods to the south and east from the Napa River. On the screen now is an excerpt from the Federal Emergency Management Agency's flood insurance rate map, which is produced by the federal government and is used to assess the risk of flooding and then do things like set flood insurance rates. What the map shows in the blue color are areas that are subject to a 1% annual chance of flooding. That's usually called a 100-year flood. It also defines it into both a floodplain and a floodway. Those are slight differences, but for our purposes, what the map is showing is that the levee, which goes along the edge of that blue line, holds that 100-year flood back. On the other side of the levee, where the Hunter project is and the adjacent neighborhoods, the area is subject to a 0.2% annual chance of flooding in any given year. That's called a 500-year floodplain. So what the map shows is that according to the federal government and their modeling, the Hunter site and the adjacent neighborhoods, including the mobile home park, are subject to a 1 in 500 chance in any given year of having measurable flooding. That's certainly safe enough for housing, and as described in the environmental impact report, that's not an impact that needed to be mitigated. The levee provides the mitigation from flooding by holding the Napa River floodwaters back. Now, as with all the other topics that I'm talking about today, there's more detail in the staff report package, in the environmental impact report, and in other materials that are available on the city's website. Definitely invite you to take a look at those if you have any more detailed questions about anything to do with the Hunter project. Next up, let's talk about water neutrality. The City of St. Helena provides water, we'll call that city water, to residences, businesses, etc. throughout the city. That water comes from several different sources, including wells, reservoir, and the City of Napa, but those supplies are limited, and the city has an adopted policy and regulations on the books that say that the amount of water, the amount of city water that St. Helena provides can't increase. So if you bring a project in that is going to use water, you need to offset that increase in use in a number of different ways. Now, a condition of approval on this project requires them to do that in 2 ways. First, they propose to use an on-site water well. There's a photograph on the page in front of you to provide all of the exterior water, all the lawns being watered, etc. Will be provided with water from that well. That offsets about half of their demand. The other half is going to have to be met by one or more different projects that the city is going to have to approve and the developer is going to have to build and get online before the project can begin construction that offset the rest of the water use. So the project will not increase the amount of water used in St. Helena. It's required by city regulation to make sure that overall water use in the city doesn't increase, and there's a condition of approval that requires them to do that and to have projects online that reduce that water use before the project can get built. In addition, the city is building a reclaimed water system, which, when it's available at the project site, will connect to the irrigation lines that the developer will construct. At that time, the well will be shut down and the project will be provided with city water for all the interior uses and reclaimed water for all the exterior uses. Another concern about the project is that it will affect the use of public trails in the area. In a nutshell, it won't. The image on the screen shows in red the existing public walking path and trail that goes along Adams Street out toward the Napa River, loops around and comes back. That trail, as shown here, is outside the project site and will not be affected by the Hunter project. A number of commenters have expressed the opinion that the Hunter project is, quote, high density and doesn't belong in this area. Well, high density is somewhat in the eye of the beholder, but as far as the city is concerned, this site has been designated for medium density residential, which starts at about 5.1 units to the acre for about the last 30 years. The project comes in actually at the very low end of the density range that must be built here in order to comply with the general plan and the zoning. In fact, nearby neighborhoods are more dense than the Hunter project. The Vineyard Valley Mobile Home Community, Hunters Grove Apartments, both are built at a higher density than the proposed Hunter subdivision project would be if it were constructed and built. Some people may consider the Hunter project to be high density, but from the city standpoint, it is medium density and actually at the very low end of the medium density category. Next up, let's talk about traffic congestion. The question is, will this project cause traffic congestion? The answer to that is no. There are existing areas in St. Helena, if you drive around, you know that at certain times of the day, traffic gets congested. This project will add cars to those locations at times when there's already congestion. It'll make that congestion slightly worse, but not significantly so. On the screen are three of the key intersections: Main Street and Pope Street, which is also shown in the photograph there, Paseo Grande and Pope Street, and Silverado Trail and Pope Street. In all those locations, the project will add about 5 seconds or less of delay in a peak hour, which is the morning and evening kind of rush hour situation. But there is no location in town where there is no congestion, and this project will cause congestion. So it adds traffic to areas that are already congested, but not significantly so, not rising to the level where there's a significant effect on traffic. There are conditions of approval on the project that require this developer to both pay development impact fees, which help fix some of those larger traffic problems, and to do some specific improvements to deal with issues related directly to this project. So what about affordable housing? Now, city regulations require that every new housing project of 5 or more units, which includes the Hunter project, has to make at least 20% of those units affordable to low-income families. And there's a number of detailed requirements in the city's municipal code that define how that has to happen. All of that is put into an affordable housing agreement, which would need to be approved by the city council. There's a condition of approval that has to be in place before the applicant's final map can be approved. So the project will provide affordable housing. The exact details have not been finalized yet. That will be subject to an additional review by the city council. That will be the subject of another public hearing. So the public will have a chance to weigh in on how that is proposed to be done. But the project will provide affordable housing. At least 20% of the units will be affordable to low-income families. As I mentioned earlier, the City Council meeting at which the project will be considered is coming up soon. Monday, May 1st at 6 p.m. Meeting will be held at Vintage Hall in St. Helena. The City Council meeting will be open to the public. Everyone's invited to attend, talk to the council, provide your comments, and we definitely look forward to seeing you there. More information, including the full council agenda, is available on the city's website. The city does encourage everyone to come and comment on the project. There are a number of ways you can comment. You can either send an email, the address is on the screen here. You can send a U.S. Postal Service letter to the City Council at City Hall, or you can attend the council meeting directly and speak to the council there. The deadline for email or mail comments is 3 p.m. the day of the meeting, which again is Monday, May the 1st. So if you can't attend, get those comments in by 3 p.m. That allows us time to distribute them to the council and make sure that they're available for them at the meeting. One question we've been asked many times is, if this project is approved, if the subdivision is approved on May the 1st, when would we see construction beginning? Well, there is no final date for the start of construction, partly because there are several very important items that need to get approved by either the City Council or the Planning Commission before construction can begin. The City Council needs to approve a final map, which is a final version of the tentative map, which is being considered on May the 1st. They need to approve an affordable housing agreement that specifies how affordable housing will be provided within the project. The Planning Commission needs to conduct design review of the proposed homes and the multifamily units. And the multifamily units require a conditional use permit from the Planning Commission. All of those items require public hearings. The public will be notified of all of those, and the timing really depends on when the applicant brings in those other applications and submits them to the city for approval. So on behalf of the City of St. Helena, we do hope you found this information helpful. We look forward to seeing you at the City Council meeting on Monday, May the 1st. Much more information is available online on the city's website, cityofsthelena.org. You can download the entire agenda package there and find out a lot more about the project. See you at Vintage Hall on Monday, May the 1st.